All right, welcome back. We are here with Randy, and we are continuing on our journey with his Easier Ways framework. And I'm also on my journey as well as tying it into the Underearners Anonymous 12 steps. So if you've been following along, we are now on step 7. And Randy, we have you have some good news today. I wanted to acknowledge that your book has been published, and you've had your hand on it as well too. I want to remind everybody watching this that all of the time that you spend watching this particular program is creditable hours in the time bank, which maybe by the time you're watching this will be called the Living Library Time Bank, but for now it's called the Karmic Margin Call Time Bank. And as we were stating last time that we spoke, anytime that you spend invested in reading Randy's work as well is creditable hours. So that's something that you can check in with me about and how to how to redeem that credit for reading and for watching and for being a part of this conversation. But Randy, before we get into step 7 today, how does it feel? How does it feel to have the book finished and published and having something tangible in your hands? I think that's an exciting thing to to share, with our with our other viewers and audience.
Yeah, because it's been something that's been within me for so long, it is fulfilling to see it actualized. Uh, Reassuring that those who've read it see value in it. Kind of mind blowing when I will read through this stuff, and it's like that's not really how I talk. Um, if someone was to ever read it, it is written very conversationally, and I'm not a trained author and such. It was wanted to have a vibe like we were having a conversation like today.
Mhm.
It may be grandiose when I say this, but I feel that there was something beyond Randy that was speaking through me. Um, and yeah, again, it's humbling. There's a lot of emotions, but I'll summarize it. So again, it's very fulfilling to see something that I essentially have worked on for 19 years. I've been sober for 19 years. So this is the accumulation of all that effort, all those. I don't think it's an exaggeration. It's the thousands of hours that I was being helped, and I've had opportunities to be of service and help others. And now this is just an expansion of that, and just kind of in a new way. So, yeah, yeah. But thanks for asking. Yeah, it's something hard for me to put into words.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Randy, as well. And what's coming up for me at the moment, what's alive for me as well, is that you know being able to create something and to invest thousands of hours into something is something that is so priceless. It's so treasured, and that's something that I hope sparks something in someone who is watching this as well too. That if you're trying to create something and you're working towards building content or writing a book or anything like that, please check in with us about how all of that time is never wasted. It's always it's potentially worth a return, whether that be a financial return or a return on good karma, so to speak. That's something that we want to continue that conversation as well. So I'm going to read step 7 on the Under Earners Anonymous page. And then, Randy, I'm going to ask you to go into your step 7 and just talk a little bit about the process of how you came to your lens or your vantage point of this. And we'll just start the conversation there. But step 7 that I have here written in front of me from the Under Earners Anonymous page is that we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. So humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. And now, Randy, I'll turn it over to you. What is your version of that?
Mine is we humbly began the process of profound change to overcome our weaknesses and build new strengths. So, yeah, it's initiating a humble journey of profound transformation. Um, again, those who have been following along, I hope you can see just at least from in the beginning of the action steps. Step 4, when again we're getting clarity and confirmation on the causes and conditions that have brought us to this point in life. Then again, we share that with another individual. That as far as that's just getting even more clarity on everything. Very, very helpful to understand you're not the only person in the world who's gone through these things and sees the world and sees themselves in a way that you do. And then the 6th step that's preparing for this is becoming entirely ready
Mhm.
to begin this profound thing of change. So it doesn't mean that there hasn't been change along in the process, but now this has gotten to a next level of, again, we really kind of know uh, where our ways are falling short.
Mhm.
Our paradigms, our identity, our worldview, um, where it's not working anymore. But also in regards to understanding that there is possibility for change if we desire this. Again, that's that we talked about the horizontal relationship. We're connecting with another individual, and we're starting to realize, wow, if they've been able to do this, again, we relate, we're connecting. That this is someone who's a fellow traveler, an equal, has been able to overcome similar things, then there's a high probability for ourselves. So there's just a reinforcement of hope that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I really appreciate the I really appreciate the part, especially about building new strengths, and that's something that I'll want to get into here in a moment. But one thing that really that I'm reflecting on in looking at the comparison between the two is about when it says humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. What I appreciate about your lens through this is it brings it back on the self, taking self responsibility. I can appreciate the language of God because I want to be able to hold space for people in religious communities, especially in Unitarian communities as well too, where the understanding of God is a little more flexible. And I kind of see that as some of the new abilities or the new strengths that's kind of starting to develop in me in understanding that the language, the languaging of this kind of content, of this kind of journey, makes a lot of difference as well too. Whether somebody is a fundamentalist, Christian, or whether someone is atheist or agnostic, and really subscribing more towards a practical, more of a practical type of approach. So what I'm noticing and why your words especially resonate with me quite a bit is it really kind of turns it within, really taking I mean, where the 12 steps requires you or is asking of you to take an inventory of yourself and to take accountability of yourself. There's still kind of that religious conversation, that sometimes gets in the way, where where my understanding of God gets in the way of someone else's understanding of God, and then it becomes kind of like a competition. But I appreciate in your wording about the overcoming of shortcomings. First of all, being aware of those shortcomings, and then building towards new strengths. So yeah, so I just really wanted to say how much I appreciated your lens through that, and I also appreciate the contrast of the languaging of taking self accountability, and also still with the 12 steps, the traditional 12 steps, still leaving it open for the conversation about God and the religious conversation. So I said a lot there, so I'll let you sit with that for a moment and reflect what's alive for you on that one.
Well, and again, this word God that, gosh, so personal. Yeah, I mean, it's it gets complicated. in having conversations with people. And again, this is also again, if you, as I was framing it up leading up to this, there's been times of reflection, of conversation, contemplation, and such for the individual to get to this point. Um,
Mhm.
but there was something that was shared with me. It's a quote from Joseph Campbell, um, famous author and stuff. God is a metaphor for that which transcends all levels of intellectual thought.
Yep.
So again,
Yeah.
I think I've said for years, God is bigger than theology. Now, again, I have no argument with anything that I've ever been, you know, shown. What I've studied in the Bible, I would say, because I came to spirituality through the 12 steps, which is based in a Judeo-Christian tradition, um, the type of things that most people in America would envision associated with God. I really don't see anything that rubs me the wrong way. But I also have come to the point that it is, again, this concept of my concept of God cannot be comprehended really. Um,
Hmm.
but that does not necessarily mean I don't know of this presence. Again, sitting with other individuals when I felt helpless and hopeless, um, and again, this is kind of the step of like, I can't do it anymore. I need some assistance in doing this. Um, I feel that God manifested in the conversation with this other individual that was being present with me, being loving and kind and compassionate with me when I couldn't summon that aspect of my existence. So again, God is a metaphor for which transcends all level of intellectual thought. To me, one wraps it up as I can't understand this. I'm not going to grasp this. I can't have some kind of certitude with this. And it also reminds me, if again, if we are going to reference the Bible and such, metaphor is used repeatedly, countless, in trying to explain the unexplainable. So for those that are listening to this on either side of the discussion, those that are devout in their faith, or those that are agnostic or atheist and such. I feel compelled to bring this up. Whatever logic you're applying here, I know there's a foundation for you carrying that with you, but I hope you can understand it can't it can't be complete because
Hmm.
this thing is beyond. I don't know. Again, there are theologians that study this type of stuff, but again, this is not like a subject in college that you can go and you can grasp your head and again, you could try to write theses. I'm sure there's been plenty of people go to seminary, write theses and stuff like that. But from my angle on this, and why I don't want to interject there and stuff, again, at best, it's incomplete. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's sticking point of this. On the other hand, when you sit with someone, whether you're in a situation of great vulnerability, or you're being present with someone
Hmm.
that again, is in this point of transcendence. Again, we're transcending the past and moving into the future and such. It is very, very real. If you've ever held a child, newborn in your arms and such, again, again, you can kind of put this into word and describe it, but it's beyond at least my vocabulary. It's these moments in life that are very, very real, but
Yeah.
also can only really be experienced. They can only, I don't know, there's more of really of a sensation, a knowing, a okayness. Is again, it's beyond my vocabulary. But for those that are encountering this or contemplating encountering this moment of turning their will and their life over to the care of the God, removing all my character defects, which is another way of saying is our God, take away all my sins, all the thing that separates
Mm.
you. Um,
Mm.
you're going to have to go through it yourself and know. Not understand, but know it very, again, much like you would look in a lover's eyes, know that this is a very real thing. But what will follow this? Again, we're kind of right now, we're just in the middle of the thick of this. What's going to occur as you do go through the other following steps um, is you can't transmit to another person. I've sat with other people many times, and yeah, it's your journey. We can walk along together, but it's yours. That's what I mean by personal. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's a lot of words for me.
Yeah. Yeah, what you were saying, what's alive for me in response to that is, how the presence of God or the presence of the transcendent is is always here. And to also give a Joseph Campbell quote, I think he said something like the center of the universe is right here, and you're the other one. And whoever is listening to this is the other one. And what's also alive for me is like kind of like dropping out of the heart, or sorry, dropping out of the head and into the heart, because it is beyond intellectual, reasoning or intellectual capacity. So that kind of brings me back to overcoming the shortcomings and building new strengths. I as I'm reflecting on that, understanding and identifying the shortcoming and then overcoming it, um, has kind of really this step especially has inspired some deep reflection. And I'd like to ask you as well, Randy, as I'm working through these thoughts. Well, what are those shortcomings, and how have you overcome them? For me, I think you've been articulating it throughout this whole journey is having these expectations that have been sold to me, ingrained to me, and thinking that people are further along than they really are. And that has been kind of like my shortcoming in that sometimes I don't see, sometimes I don't see very clearly because I am very, for the most part, I've always been very optimistic. And when my very high expectations have not been met with other people, I sometimes see myself taking it out on, it's like on my kids for the most part. And that's going to kind of be a factor in our conversation on step 8 here in a moment as well too. But yeah, I understand how when I'm wounded because my expectations have not been met, um, expecting that someone who can give me the job or who can hire me or who can place me in a position where I have a little more management responsibility. And I realize that they're struggling as well too. And where my shortcoming is exposed is that I've expected people to be doing this work, and when it's hard for other people, it becomes hard on me, and I'm recognizing how I sometimes project my trauma onto people. And I think, I sometimes think, I think they have like an ulterior motive or they're lying to me and something like that. But I'm developing the new strength to be able to hold space for that trauma. And that's why this particular process and your particular wording has been very beneficial to me because instead of trying to compete with others, for a job or for a position, which is one of my shortcomings, competitiveness, I'm able to now look at, ooh, okay, if I'm feeling a charge, how is my trauma coming out and how can I hold space for compassionate conversation about that? So that's kind of like the new strength that's starting to build within me. So I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to share that with our our listeners as well too, that that is how this process and especially your framing of it has impacted my life, Randy. So I wanted to give you a moment to reflect and ask further about what are the shortcomings and what are the new strengths that are building.
So There again, basically shortcomings or insecurities.
Yep.
Short answer and stuff.
Mm.
And typically for myself, my insecurities are because I have compared myself to others. Okay. If I was more like this person, I wouldn't necessarily, again, these are the expectations. Say if I don't know, if I was, I don't know, better looking, if I was, I don't know, stronger, loving, more kind, compassionate, whatever thing that I see falling short of the standard I have imagined in my mind, that's my insecurity. Okay. Um, so one of the things that we've been talking about is you're not broken. Okay. You're human. Okay. This again, just that whole comparison and seeing how I've been judging myself by an arbitrary standard that I came up with in unconsciously. It's not like I ever really kind of sat down had these things. They just pop up that where I feel like I'm less than others. Um, that's a very very human thing. I can't imagine another human being that hasn't gone through life because again, this is part of the reason we are who we are. We again we're started at an early age, emulating those around us, our parents, our peers, siblings, and it is a very good purpose to do because one, we're learning, but also when we do kind of see like, well, you know what, I want to get a good grade on this math test, and I'm realizing that the standard set for this second grade math test, you know, I need to study more. I've got to get more focused on this. I need to ask for help, tutoring, or whatever it may be. Now, I'm trying to downplay second grade, but we can now go into later into life when you're talking about being competitive in the job market and such. There's good things about this comparison. It's like, wait a minute, what do I need to do to achieve the things I want to do? Again, we all have goals and want to accomplish. Now, some of those goals may be inadvertently, again, speaking for myself, were self-destructive. All I really wanted to do was have fun. My work, that was so I could have money to do the things that I wanted to do that were fun. Um, I really didn't have lofty goals of higher education or advancing my career and such as that. So again, the goal was just for those who may say, "Well, I've never really aspired for I don't know to have the corner office kind of stuff." No, but again, there's things we want to achieve. Whether again, it could be as simple as I want a relationship. Okay, whatever it may be, we will either change our behaviors to make what we set out to do more likely, probably to achieve our goals. Okay, or we change our goals to match our behaviors. This is very very common among addicts and alcoholics and such. I don't want to necessarily change my behavior, so I'm going to change my goals. And again, as I
Mm.
did to earlier and stuff, what's my goal? Is have fun. You know,
Mhm.
life's a party. Kind of thing and stuff. All my goal right now is just have a good time today, kind of stuff. Yeah, and you know, to some degree, again, why not enjoy life? But on the other hand, the unintended consequences is being at like 35, 40 years old and realizing that basically I've wasted every opportunity to use my gifts and my talents. And now as I'm going to be 62 next week, coming upon retirement. I
Mm.
don't have a retirement. I'm not financially prepared for these years. And again, I'll probably be working until I draw my last breath. Fortunately, I'm in a good work environment where I don't see that as a problem. I enjoy the work that I do. But if again, I could easily compare myself to other people that have done well. I have customers that come into our store that are affluent. And but for those who are listening, I work in the motorcycle industry. I sell motorcycles. I sell watercrafts. I sell side by sides to people. And there are people that come in who have large properties and are able to buy cash, very expensive toys. And it's
Mm.
easy for me to spend my moments like, wow, it would have been great if that was my future. I could be retired at 60 and again, living the life of these people. But then I just, again, can take two steps back and observe. It's like, Okay, that is again nothing wrong with doing that. And again, one, comparing myself, and two, it's nothing wrong what they've done as well as myself. There's nothing, again, it's been our journey, it's been our path, each of our, and of course, as I'm comparing to other people, I only know a snapshot. I don't know
Yep.
what really is going on into this person's life and stuff. And to some degree, I don't even really know what's going on in my life. This, you
Yeah.
know, my thoughts are not reality. Thought is not reality, although thoughts are what for my reality, if that makes sense. That's another thing I've felt like sharing with other people. And to say that again is I have misunderstandings, I have incomplete knowledge of situations of myself and relationships, life in general, and such. So therefore, to have a certitude of saying, no, this is how it is, when it's not personal, I can see again that's not going to serve me, and it's not going to benefit my life in any shape or form. So, one, acknowledging that it's life's a mystery as much as God's a mystery. Again, I guess we can say reality is God, in this
Mm.
mystery of it. What's going on in this world, as much as we think we know what's going on with ourselves and in our relationships and in the world in general, um, what was a harsh truth for me accepting was I don't really, as much as I think I've commented before, I'm a recovering know-it-all. I crave that certainty and assume that certainty just to find some kind of peace of mind. That's, doggone it, this is how it is. To find the humility of just saying, I don't know, and I could be wrong. I will let a power greater than myself, which again, we're going to use the metaphor of God here. I'm going to let reality guide me and show me what is the path from here. Um, it's a surrender, it's a yielding to a life force and energy and such that, yeah, actually has served, again, in looking back where there has served me very, very well. Although it's been very fluid of it. And again, more and more, I'm taking the position of being, I don't know, an instrument that this energy is living through and bringing forth something called life. But that's so again, my defects of character basically have been insecurities that came about by a certitude,
Mhm.
and what's been replacing them is this humility, this honesty that has
Mhm.
actually given me, strangely enough, confidence.
Yes. Yeah, that was going to be my question. What are the emerging strengths? What are the strengths that are emerging from that? And I think you summed it up excellently, Randy. Yeah, and as we're wrapping up this step as well too, the question I have for someone who might want to join us in these conversations or in preparation for one of these conversations is in this journey for you so far, what have you discovered are your shortcomings that are transmuting into new strengths? So that would be my question to challenge, someone who's joining us into these conversations. What are the shortcomings that you've noticed that are starting to transmute into new strengths? So I think we've explored that, Randy. Is there any challenge or any questions you might want to have for someone who might be joining us in the future, Randy?
Well, again, this is something we're kind of wading from the shallow water. We're getting kind of neck deep into the whole water here. So if you
Mhm.
haven't progressed through there, it's difficult to put something out there for somebody to contemplate.
Mhm.
But there is potentiality that there are some listeners who are in the process. So yeah, it's just basically the same thing you just mentioned here is, you know, what you might see as a liability, and such. Would you can just consider for a moment that in that, in confronting that, in is an asset. When
Mhm.
we face our insecurities inside them, on the other side of them. is there a gift?
Yeah.
And we'll get
Yeah.
more in the coming episodes.